Hi everyone, it's Heidi from flutterbyheidi.co.uk and I'm an independent Stampin' Up demonstrator based in the United Kingdom, and today I've come in with a video to show you how to make this lovely quite curvy fold, and you can see here it's using the beautiful bundle that's available in our spring and summer catalogue, and I've just used the dies that coordinate with it, as you can see here, to create this pretty layered effect. It's really easy to do. Oh, that's one of my lights just gone. No, never mind, I'll get that sorted in a minute. Yeah, it's really easy to do, and just uses some of our lovely watercolour paper to create the card. So to start off with, I've used some thick Whisper White, just taken a piece that is 12.5 by 14.5 and scored at 1 centimetre on both sides. And that forms our card base. And then I've got 3 pieces of cardstock. So this piece, as you can see here, is just 0.5 centimetre shorter. So that is 10. Let me just double check. Double check it is 10. 9.5. Sorry. So this is 10.5. So I've gone 9.5 by 14.5. I've then gone for 8.5 by 14.5. And the front layer is 7.5 by 14.5. I have actually written it down, would you believe? And in inches, that's the first piece is 5 inches, half an inch on each. And then I've just gone down by 3 3/4, 3 1/4, and 3 inches by 5 3/4 inches. So those are all the measurements you need. Other things that you're going to need, I'm using our lovely new water painters, which you can see here, and I'm also using some of our fabulous Fluid 100 watercolour paper. So that it works beautifully. Couple of things to say in terms of what I've done. So on this one, unusually I use StazOn. I don't usually use it on photopolymer. So in the sample I'm going to make up today, I've actually used some embossing powder. So obviously the reason I don't like to use StazOn on my photopolymer stamps very often is because it stains them, and if you use the StazOn cleaner, it's not good for the photopolymer, so it kind of degrades it. So if I do use it, very rarely, I clean it off very quickly. I couldn't find my plain black, so I've got a bit of sparkly black embossing powder. And a couple of people asked me how I do my watercolouring, so I will show you that as well. So the first thing to do is actually do a bit of die cutting. So with each of those pieces of card, what I'm doing is I am taking this die here, which is the lovely one with the sort of creates the holes on one side and the swirl, and just have a look at where you've got one raised edge. So you want that raised edge to the left of your card, and what you're going to do is on each piece, I'm just putting it so that it's pretty much evenly in on each side, so there's an even sort of gap round about on there. So you can see I've sort of tried to line it up as much as possible. So round about like that. I'm going to pop that through my die cutting machine. She says optimistically when she finds it. Really easy to do. Just pop it through and it will pop straight out, and you'll have a piece here. You can see if I flick it, those little dots will come out. Really easy. And if you find any of those don't come out, then if you just come in with your pokey tool, and you can poke those out, or you can use one of your die brushes. I would recommend that you do give it a good brush through, because otherwise you'll see here some of these are actually a little bit, I'm really naughty, I'm using my snips. They get a bit sort of congested, and so it obviously doesn't cut quite as well. So if you just pop those through, or your die brush will soon remove those. Then do exactly the same. So again, coming in a sort of nice even edge on each of those. Now you could measure it and make it really, really precise if you like it. I quite like having a slight offset on those curves. I think it just gives a really pretty effect. And then the final one, you'll see, again, I'm just going to come in and I'm just looking at that point all the time, just going to make that as even as possible. As I say, it's not going to be perfect unless you measure it, but then I rather like that. Okay, So there we have our 3 pieces of card. I'll pop the die to one side. I'm just going to come in and just snip at the bottom and the top. Like so. Same on this one. And I quite like this kind of asymmetric card. It's just adds a bit of fun. Anything makes it, you know me. I do like a bit of a. I like something a little bit different. And you'll find if you give those a quick flick, most of those will just pop straight out. Pokey tool. You'll see. There you go. Just pop those through. If I'd actually cleaned out my die properly, those would have come straight out. Okay, so once you've done that, just come in and you'll say you've got the 3 pieces. So you've got the ones with the dots for the one side and the ones with just the smooth curve for the opposite side. So it just all comes together like so. And then you'll see what we do is we can just layer those up to create our pretty border, and it is as simple as that. So what I'm going to do is come in with my seal. Now you can obviously layer these up using whatever glue you as your preference. I quite like just to put the seal down the side there. I think it's quite nice to have a little bit of movement, but you'll see that I'm really just lining those up like so, just to get that. Now if you wanted to have a bit more of that showing, you could obviously just layer those, increase that gap slightly, and then you can trim it down as well. Okay, so then do exactly the same on the other side. So I usually sort of do an edge and a corner. Like so. There we go. And so that's ready to go onto our card base. And what I would do is probably use some wet glue or Seal Plus on this, because you really want, because it's moving, you want a really good bond. So I'm just going to put a layer of that. And so with Tombow, you know, you don't need loads. I'm just going to spread that out. I've possibly been a little bit heavy-handed on that. So just remembering, you're coming in on this left-hand side. And then in the right hand side. Okay, so once those are, just fold it over, and this is the good thing about using your Tombow, it gives you a bit of wiggle room. You can just make sure that those are lined up with the top and bottom. You see that creates that nice gap in the middle there. So on to our watercolouring. Now, things you want for the watercolouring, I find really useful is one of our Stamparatus plates. And as I said, I've already stamped and die cut the long image on these. Now I'm going to come in with the fabulous new water brushes that we've got, and the great thing about that is we've got one which is nice and wide, and when you're watercolouring, here you go, I would add some moisture to the back of your watercolour card. That will help it stick on there. Now you can obviously spray it, and I'm using the wide brush here just to give that a go. Okay, so once you've done that, you want to make your card nice and wet, your watercolour paper, because you want that to have some movement in it. And all I'm going to do is come in with one of my blocks, and I'm going to add a little bit of Pool Party. No, I'm not, that's Rococo Rose. In fact, that's Blushing Bride. A drop of Rococo Rose, and a drop of Pool Party. She says, hopefully. Okay, once you've done that, come in with, I'm going to use my medium water brush here. So I'm just going to get that, and then I'm just going to come over and just paint quite wetly, just picking up a little bit of colour as and wherever I want. So I'm making this quite wet, and add that colour in, like so. And then once I've done the one colour, just wipe that off. I'm going to come in with my deeper pink. You see that's a lovely colour. Again, just kind of give it a wash. And the beauty of this is you just come in and add the colour wherever you want. So I'm kind of adding it down the middle of these, like so. Now if you want to sort of dry that off in between, that's absolutely fine. Just add, use your heat tool, and then finally I'm going to come in with a little bit of my Pool Party. A bit more Cocoa Rose, a bit more Pool Party around the edges. And it's as easy as that, you know, it's really just sort of keeping it nice and fluid. Now you could leave those to dry on their own. When I say on their own, overnight whenever you're doing it. But all I need to do is just bring my heat tool in. And you will get slightly harder lines. And what I'm just going to do is just pick that up. So just dry that off, and it dries really quickly. Like so. And then you've kind of got within those, you've now got the kind of colours that you had in your in the card stock, in your two panels. Ready to go onto the front there. That's my heat tool hitting the ground. And so then you can trim it to wherever you want. So I've kind of looked at that and I thought, well, actually I'm going to trim it to this leaf here. So I'm just going to come in and very quickly just literally take my snips around that leaf. That's going to give me my panel for that. And then on this top one, I'm actually going to bring it down to this leaf here. And it will depend on how you'd like your panel to be. But what it does is that then leaves you with some extra kind of leaves. So if I grab my dimensionals and just pop some dimensionals on the back there. Now if you don't want the gap down the middle, obviously you just need to make the panels slightly wider. There we go, put one there. But I rather liked having that gap because it then meant I'd got a perfect little space to add some of my offcuts of my watercoloured panel as well. So again, just take the backings off those. And add that. And then this little piece here, obviously it looks a bit raggedy, so all I'm going to do is just trim around this leaf. And you'll find by the time you've actually trimmed those extra bits, nobody will notice the difference. Just add a bit of seal onto that and then just see where that fits, which way up you might like it. Okay, and then the same on this last little bit. I can just pop that just at that very top. So there you have just a pretty asymmetric card using some watercolour techniques. And you see with this one I've just left it blank because you can add your sentiment to the inside if that's what you'd like to do, or as I did with this one, you can trim it down slightly shorter and add our sentiment to the top there. So there we have it, a couple of pretty cards using the lovely Curvy Celebration or Quite Curvy stamp set and coordinating dies. Thanks for watching. Come back and see me soon, and if you'd like to purchase any of the products you've seen, pop along to my blog at flutterbyheidi.co.uk. You'll find all the links there. Bye!